everyone who's ever picked up a pen dreams of being traditionally published. But even when you reach the stage of having a manuscript that's sellable, it is a grindingly exhausting and long, slow process. You can be as experimental, as personal, as kinky, as avant-garde as you choose. That's the beauty of it. A forgotten idea is even more useless than a subpar draft. Hoarding ideas will save your ass so many times further down the line. Ideas are potentially going to be the foundations of your bank balance, so be careful which ones you toss down the drain. The trouble with self-publishing, there is no one standing between you and the audience, and that should be terrifying. That should not feel, oh great, it's so simple, it's so quick. No, that should be terrifying. Getting people to pay to read your unknown, untested, unpromoted works, it's going to be the world's biggest ball ache. But then I get people asking, well, how do I create a platform to sell from? This is the wrong question. The wrong route, a painful oversimplification. The characters bring everything themselves and we just hold the pen. It's like communing with something beyond yourself, like becoming a portal through which your characters speak. So hello, you wonderful citizen of cyberspace, and welcome to a video about writing and self-publishing. Since I've had quite a few of you ask me questions relating to these subjects recently, and since it's all a bit complicated, I thought giving it its own video rather than trying to reply to each person individually made the most sense. And I'm afraid I'm going to be reading this one at you because there's a lot to remember and fit in, so in the interest of avoiding too many gibberish tangents, here we go. So self-publishing is the thing I've been asked about the most recently, but since I get a pretty good scattering of more general writing questions or comments that my scribbles have inspired you guys to start scribbling again, which is fucking fabulous, I wanted to start in chronological order with getting started writing or getting over writer's block, then how to polish up your writing, but I will leave timestamps in the drop-down box in case you want to skip ahead to whatever bit is relevant to you and your process. But if you've got time, here's a few words on getting started or restarted, whether you're new or dealing with writer's block. For me and for a lot of people, I think, we loved creative writing at school, but the shit thing about most comprehensive school educations is that they never teach you to think for yourself, to motivate yourself to be curious and creative, and as a result, I never made that vital leap from writing about a given set topic to writing about whatever personally interested me on my own schedule, in my own time, in my own style. I didn't get into that for so long. I wasted a full flipping decade not writing a word because of that. And then when I finally tried to pick back up the mighty pen, it wasn't half as easy or even as skilled as it used to be when I was a literal child. I actually took a creative writing course with the Open Uni years before writing clicked for me. They told me what to write about, and so I wrote. But what came out was just unbelievable tripe. It was so bad. I found it on an old hard drive recently, and wow. I mean, it was proper cheesy, chick-lit garbage, and not even a good example of the genre. Nothing was flowing. And the crazy thing is, I'd had a novel idea in my mind for years. My vampire characters and the beginning of their story, it was all bubbling around inside my brain, but every time I sat down and forced myself to write some pages, the result was such embarrassing trash, I deleted it all and gave up completely. And this frustration, this desire yet inability, is what fueled me into finally going to university or college for the Americans at the age of 26. But this isn't to say you need that in order to write, because the silly thing is, the key for me was shockingly simple, and most of what improved my writing wasn't so much what we did at uni, but a series of solo fumble-abouts. I've told you some of this before, but the moment it clicked and writing started to flow, it all came about through a specific exercise involving images, then a strange sideways leap in thinking and approach. So condensing all that into something I can actually pass on, here's what I'd suggest. If you know what you want to write about, find an image that relates to any scene or part of that project that currently appeals to you. You could find a picture that reminds you of one of your characters or the city or room where a major scene goes down. If you don't know what you want to write about, and that's the whole problem, I think write what you know is a wise cliche, but write what you're passionate about is a still wiser one. If there's a location that's always drawn your interest, pull up some pictures of it. If you've been there, great. If you haven't, throw yourself into research on the little details. And if it's a place you've invented, I'm going to be a bit controversial here and say it is possible to use AI to summon up an inspiring image. Now, I know a lot of people in the arts particularly loathe every aspect of AI to its core, and that is completely understandable. But for my money, now this tool exists, and sadly it seems there is no putting it back in its box, despite how increasingly terrifying AI is becoming. Stuffing a few code words into it and whizzing up a picture that inspires or assists your art, whilst never directly sharing or publicly using that AI image, that's a pretty Snow White innocent use of the technology in my view. So it's like a helping hand to art without fucking any other artists over. And as a little side word on AI, I do feel like now it's, you know, it's becoming more entrenched in every aspect of life. It's becoming more advanced. It's everywhere. Everyone is using it. I have this feeling that the people who are so against it, they refuse to learn how to use it. They refuse to interact with it. They never use it at all. Hate to say it, but I think you're going to be limited and stuck behind the people who are using it in some kind of way. For myself, I have only ever used it so far to really bounce ideas off. So whether that's summing up an image because I don't have a visual brain and it helps me go, oh, okay, that's kind of what that would look like and I can describe it in words, or whether it's ideas, just literally saying, look, I need ideas on such and such. Something I'm wondering about is whether you can use it to get past blocks in a plot line. Like if you've written a plot line but there's kind of some holes, can you bounce that off it and say, how would you smooth this out? I feel like picking its brain for ideas and just you know, using it to spark curiosity and spark creativity is probably a pretty Snow White way of using AI. I would say if you do use it to pull up any images to inspire yourself, for God's sake, I will get onto this later, but for God's sake, don't use that as your front cover on your book. Just don't. The copyright issues around AI are still being sorted out. If it turns out that it's really pillaged someone's picture, you could end up in hot water with copyright. But more than that, so many people fucking hate AI, particularly in the arts. If you use an AI cover, you are slashing your audience. So you pick its brain, but be careful about how you use it, I would say, when it comes to AI. But anyway, moving on from all of that, however you do it, get the image of a something, somewhere, someone that interests you enough to write about. Again, if you haven't a clue what you're writing, you could just start by describing this place or this person. If you don't know what to write about, make it a pure daydream scene, and always remember that no one is ever going to see this piece of writing unless you choose to show them. It's just between you and the page. You can be as experimental, as personal, as kinky, as avant-garde as you choose. You can write fanfic, you can write porn, you can write philosophy or stream of consciousness nonsense. That's the beauty of it. You're just taking the daydream capabilities of your own brain and pushing that creative play space outwards, rolling out your imagination on a screen where you can capture it, polish it, or even just keep it in all its glorious imperfection for your own future re-enjoyment. So describe what you see, then wing off from there. If it's a location, insert some people who appeal to you, or take the person who appeals to you to an interesting location. What are they worried about right now? It could be something tiny, or it could be preventing the literal end of the world. What's the weather like? How does it smell there? Are there any stressful or happy holidays coming up for them? If that involves family or family memories, are they good or bad? Do any great or terrible family anecdotes or nicknames haunt them? What are they doing later tonight or tomorrow? Are they on their way somewhere? Is this to be an ordinary day where you just get to know them in their usual routine, or is something monumental about to happen? If it's the latter, is it a good monumental, like a meet cute that'll change their whole life, or is it a tragedy that will come close to destroying them? Just let the daydream wander. And if the words flow for a while, then hit a dead end you just can't get past. either take a break and try again, or back up a few lines, a whole paragraph or two even. Don't delete what you've written, just back up, then try a slightly different route past the verbal blockage. Always remember that you can dive back in at any point in the dialogue or description and reshape the putty, recolour the landscape, alter where things are going, be that slightly or completely. And when it comes to reading it back, this bit is fucking important. When it comes to reading it back, editing it through, this is the bit, for me anyway, particularly when I was new to writing, this is the bit that would suck for me, because the actual creating and the actual writing, that would flow, and it would sound like it was going well, and then I would read it back. I would read it back and I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? This is not how it sounded when I was creating it. It sounded beautiful when I was creating it. Now this is shit. So just please remember that no one puts a flawless first draft on paper, so don't be critical with yourself. Of course, you'll have to chop and change words, whole sentences, rearrange and remove bits, rewrite whole chunks. That's normal and good, not cause to decide you suck. And something I'd like to insert here regarding criticism, both your own and other people's, something that has really, really helped me with taking criticism on board with writing is thinking of it like a paint box, like visual art, rather than words, because I think words can feel too personal. If someone says you've used too many adverbs, or it's too rambly, or it's a bit boring, or this character's not very believable, or whatever the criticism is, you can take that very much to heart, and you can get quite offended or just feel like you suck. And I find it's helpful to think you've literally just painted what you wanted to say in slightly the wrong shade of colour. Like, you know, all the words you use, they are just colours on a page. You are just creating a picture. You think about all the different writers out there and the stylistics they use, the point of view they use. There's so many different colours and different ways of painting a scene. So if it's wrong, you just use slightly the wrong colour palette. That's all it is. It's nothing more personal than that. You just went a little bit too cold toned, a little bit too warm toned, something like that. It is not a personal, terrible attack on you and your descriptions and your daydreaming and your characters and all of this. It's just the wrong colours. That's all. Maybe that'll help, maybe that won't, but it helped me. So particularly at the beginning of your writing career, don't delete everything in a huff if it doesn't read back how you'd initially heard it in your head. Even if it genuinely stinks, and we all write things that do from time to time, just downgrade it from a draft to an idea. That's all a bad draft is. It's not a stain on your soul. It's just a hastily scribbled idea. And maybe in a few weeks or years, you'll come back to this idea, this character or place or piece of a scene, and stylistically rewritten, it will become a vital little slot into what you've been creating. If you just delete it all, I promise you will forget this idea. And a forgotten idea is even more useless than a subpar draft. Hoarding ideas will save your ass so many times further down the line if you do go on to make writing or anything creative your career. Ideas are potentially going to be the foundations of your bank balance, so be careful which ones you toss down the drain. Returning to those of you who already have a solid idea in mind, though, like I did, a novel or a short story that haunts your imagination but refuses to show itself on the page in the right words, here's the magic trick that worked for me. It might not work for you, we're all different, but if you're stuck, maybe give this a try. The natural thing with an idea is to start at the beginning, right? That's what I'd been doing, and that's what kept failing. What fixed me and my problems was finding an image, a scene from the middle of the book. In my case, that was a picture of Birmingham's bullring lit up at night. I saw that mad blue-lit dollop of alien hubcaps towering over the city's nocturnal skyline, and I had a sudden clear vision of what my characters would be up to on top of that massive building, somewhere between the neon and the stars. So I just dived in, wrote the first scene that appealed to me. I was more comfortable with it sounding scrappy, unpolished, because obviously this wasn't the final version, so I didn't get self-critical, and it was easier to be confident about what was going on because this was a pivotal scene. Everyone's words and actions came automatically, easily. And that was when I realised that I couldn't start at the start because beginnings are introductions, and how could I introduce characters before I'd hung out with them and got to know them? Secondly, there was the style. The pressure is huge with the introduction to a novel. That first page stylistically has got to be right. The voice has to be strong enough to tune your ear into the rest of the book, and the characters have to have your heart, or at least your interest, within a scant few lines. Honestly, the finalised beginning to a novel is almost always the final bit I write or rewrite because it's so fucking important. Starting at a more certain, less pressure-filled scene, moment or conversation from the middle of the story gives you a gentler little rip in the barbed wire fence, an easier way to slip inside the narrative and start getting to know the people, getting to know their story and the stylistics of that story, the voice and POV it wants to be told in. So again, while you're writing this random scene, if you struggle, again, make it a daydream. It's just you and your characters hanging out. This need not be the final version. It needn't even be a scene you use in the published book. If you feel like just going to the mall with your characters and hanging out, or going with them to an event in their backstory, going through it with them to see what moulded them into who they are now, that's quite a good one too. And it's going to let you into their heads and just spend some time getting to know the people and places you're planning to write about. That first manuscript, I wrote the entirety of its first draft just like that. I made a list of every scene in the book, and then each day I'd get up, grab whatever scene in whatever order appealed the most, and daydream my way through it before stitching it all messily together. That draft was not a triumph by far, but it wasn't heinous considering it was a first try. And what's important is that it was catchy enough to make me fall headlong in love with those characters, with their story, and with writing as an art form. Ironically though, it's actually been other writings that are the ones I've put out into the world. My first characters haven't made me much money or reputation yet, but they're still the closest to my heart, and spending time with them in daydream mode has gotten me through many of the toughest, shittiest times of my life, which never would have happened if I'd deleted every single imperfect draft. So seriously, keep your early works, even after your writing has improved, even after you've redrafted and rebooted those stories into bigger, better versions. Keep the bloopers, the deleted scenes, the offcuts. I get such a bittersweet thrill at 40 from reading drafts I wrote in my mid-20s. They're my 26-year-old self's alternate dream life, and once you reach my age, you will find it fascinating, sweet, and nearly heartbreaking being able to step back into your younger self's shoes, and a past world as well, because you will find your references, age and date, and you're like, bloody hell, I was talking about Blockbuster Video and Facebook and stuff, and yeah, you get to relive their oh so different dreams, and it's fascinating. So if all of this does get you writing, obviously the next thing is to improve it. Above all, to improve the stylistics, the flow, the believability, the aliveness of the dialogue, all of that shit. Like anything, writing needs practice, and that practice comes in two forms: input and output. Input being a diet of books that read in a style you wouldn't mind inheriting. If you don't want to write chick lit, try to read minimal chick lit for now, and more books that sound the way you want to sound. Maybe try and read books from different-ish genres just for range, or at the least read books written from different POVs, male and female protagonists, first and third person narration, past and present tense, chew it all over, try out each one, see what flows best and appeals to you for each project. On the output front, what improved my writing the fastest was not the first industrious year of writing, during which time I wrote for hours every day and output a vast stack of draft manuscripts, but it isn't about the quantity of writing you can get out or even the hours you spend writing. It's about what you write and how much you vary it in the beginning as to how much you're going to learn. I learned almost nothing stylistically that whole first year because I stayed on one track, writing about the same characters and thus staying in the same style and POV, which was, of course, my infant, beginner, far from palatable, very chick-litty novice style. I finally started improving once I switched to the greater variety in short stories. Some of them were little more than flash fiction, just a random blurt of nonsense. Others were long and rambling and very, very dubious. And the great thing about short stories is the ability to change your POV and the voice you write in. Now, there are people who say that every writer should have a distinctive voice and you should always know that it's them you're reading. This is a personal take, I guess, but for me, that's a very weird, limiting, outdated sort of notion. Actors are actors because they can become different people in every role they personify. Writers write about different things in every book, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes here on Earth, sometimes out in space, 500 years into the future. Your imagination is near enough infinite, so why on earth would you limit yourself to just one voice? I love the fact that as a writer, your face and speaking voice are invisible. You can sound and appear on the page as literally anyone, from a man to a woman to a child to a fucking alien or a speaking dog, and that is gorgeous to me, particularly as someone genderqueer who would rather be speaking to you as a dude right now. I can do that in my writing, and I feel so much freer. I feel like my words come across more clearly. I just feel like I can express myself better in certain characters' shoes than I can as myself. So this whole write in your own voice, have a one voice that you stick to, think I don't like that shit. I mean, everyone's different, but I don't like that shit. So for me with short stories, I've always found they arrive with a voice built in. I rarely have to work on it or think it through much, although novels are different. There is one particular novel that I have tried in so many different styles and POVs and I'm still getting it right. But short stories, they just roll up and they sound how they sound and I let them flow, be that the story I wrote that was deliberately stuffed with bad spelling, grammar and horrible descriptions because it was a sloppy 14-year-old boy's English homework and he frankly couldn't be asked writing it, or the flash fiction about the sleazy, blokey sex addict who liked having sex with cars, or the 50s slang-punctuated tale of the greaser ghost who came through from the afterlife to save a failing writer's career. They all had their voices. And after doing that for most of a year, hopping from short story to short story, my writing was infinitely better, more capable, more varied and confident. So again, if you don't know what to write about, if no short stories come to you, use online prompts or stick with daydream mode. Just random snippets of people and places and events that intrigue you. Like if you're going through your day and any little question about someone comes to you, if you see someone kind of interesting or you just think, what would it be like to be this person, or what would it be like to be in their shoes or to do that job, or write that as a scene, write being them or what might happen with them. And it can be as adventurous or as mundane as you want, but anything that gets you writing really. Random snippets of people and places and events that intrigue you. If they don't start with a plot, who cares? Just set out the facts, the people, the location, describe it all, describe what's going through those characters' heads, their fears and desires and thoughts in that moment. And I'd be surprised if something akin to a plot didn't start to surface. You don't even need much with a short story or bit of flash fiction. One curious little what-if pondering can breed so much. And prose poems are often little more than word sketches of a scene, so try it all. Get used to thinking and dreaming on a page. Now, I know I should give advice on novels here and planning them out, taking all that wild, creative Technicolor daydreaming and dragging it into order, stacking the ideas neatly so the plot can swoop down through the book, performing a perfectly coordinated series of loop-the-loops, red herrings and poignant moments before landing at its flawless conclusion. But sadly, I am not one of those writers, the planning type. Many people categorize authors as architects, that is to say pre-planners, or pantsers who just fly by the seat of their pants. And unfortunately, I am firmly a pantser. I wish I could plan novels, then follow a dot-to-dot layout, but ideas just don't come to me when forced. I can't sit down and go, right, what's going to happen? Here's the plot, blah, blah, blah. I can't force it like that. I have to sketch out daydreams, and while being a pantser has a lot of weaknesses, the strength it makes it up in is the pure fucking magic. If you're a pantser, you don't know things until your characters tell you them. You just throw characters together and a scene simply unfolds. You don't know where it's going, and you don't know the things your characters will even say to each other until they've said them, revealing pieces of their history, relationships and backstories you just never could have guessed, and you don't feel like you even made it up. For us, our characters feel very real, and writing feels very magical because we're not the ones controlling it. The characters bring everything themselves and we just hold the pen. It's like communing with something beyond yourself, like becoming a portal through which your characters speak. So I'd say if you're a pantser too, the best thing you can do is spend time with your characters. Write random unnecessary daydream scenes, sketch out emails between them and their boss, them and their loved ones, just anything you can do to eavesdrop on their communications and conversations, to get inside their heads, to get them talking and find out about them, because as a pantser, you tend to lack the ability to just make that shit up for them. It's a way longer road to a good book, I think, pantser writing, and it takes multiple drafts and a lot of faffing to get it right, but it is a very beautiful, unpredictable journey. If you're an architect, though, and you want advice on planning, I'm afraid that's outside my realm of braining. So whack something like planning out plot lines for novels into Google and see if it brings you anything useful. There are quite a few decent masterclass programs by writers now, and if you find anything that might help a pantser become a better planner, please God let me know about that, because it would be the holy fucking grail. So finally, here comes the publishing bit. Obviously, everyone who's ever picked up a pen dreams of being traditionally published. But even when you reach the stage of having a manuscript that's sellable, it is a grindingly exhausting and long, slow process, finding appropriate agents and publishers for your work, then working out who's taking submissions, and every single one of those submission requests will have a different catalogue of wants. You'll have to redo your personal biography to varying lengths and specifications. You'll have to re-synopsize your story, sometimes as a single paragraph blurb, other times as a 2-page, 3-page, 4-page long in-depth summary of the plot. Then they'll all want different submission chunks, sometimes a pivotal scene you'll have to agonize over choosing, or more usually the beginning, and if you're anything like me, you'll have to read and reread the beginning of your manuscript until you want to die, just to see how it feels at that length. And once you've sent that email in, you will probably be told you'll be waiting 3 to 6 months to hear anything back, and some of them want you to submit it exclusively to them while they chew it over, and getting more rejections than acceptances is par for the course, so brace yourself. Ultimately, yeah, getting that initial foot in the traditional publishing door is exhausting, which is why I just didn't do it for my last 2 books. The first of the 3 was short stories, and no fucker wants to publish short stories from an unknown writer, as I was told again and again. So when it came to books 2 and 3, they were both up against major publishing time crunches. So sadly, I just did not have the time for all that faff, and self-publishing it was. The trouble with self-publishing is twofold. First off, this is the scary bit, there is no one standing between you and the audience, editing your shit and making sure it makes sense, that it isn't full of typos and plot holes and general bullshit. So you're likely going to want to get yourself an editor or some beta readers, or both, particularly if you're a new writer, because honestly, one of the things I am most grateful for in life is that I did not self-published the first novel I thought was ready for publication. It absolutely was not. It still, even now, needs so much more work, and if I'd put it out there, it would be hanging over my head like an embarrassing cloud forever. So just make sure those beta readers are going to be honest with you, and that you're ready to take on board criticism and reworkings. Like, don't don't premature ejaculate your novels. Just don't do it. Make sure that shit is ready. Because the thing with self-publishing is it can be so quick. You can just get it done, click, and it's out there. And that should be terrifying. That should not feel, oh great, it's so simple, it's so quick. No, that should be terrifying. It is out there, it is on the internet, it is there forever. You need to make sure it's ready. And if you want to just sit on a fucking novel for 6 months and make sure that it's ready, and maybe do some submissions to traditional publishing while you're waiting, that might be a good idea. But anyway, the second, even bigger problem with self-publishing, though, is the lack of promotion, lack of advertising. If you don't have some kind of platform yourself from which to holler, hey, I've got a book out, would you like to read it? Then you've got really big problems as a self-published writer. Anyone who's ever made a writing blog will know just how much you're pissing into the wind putting writing out there without a platform. Even getting people to read your free online blog is a nightmare. Getting people to pay to read your unknown, untested, unpromoted works, it's going to be the world's biggest ball ache. So when it comes to the how did you self-publish question that I get quite a bit, the answer is accidental and tricky, and it's all about you guys ultimately and the happy accident that is YouTube. Essentially, I was lucky enough to have a platform, but then I get people asking, well, how do I create a platform to sell from? First of all, I'd say this is the wrong question. The wrong route, a painful oversimplification. If you're trying to really speedily whip up a storm of people with the premeditated intention of turning them into cash cows, I think people are going to see through that. It's going to come across as ingenuine. It's not going to draw people to you. If you're just trying to go, I need this platform, I need to chase these numbers, I need to do this so I can then make them buy this. I feel like it's not going to seem genuine. People generally wind up with platforms because they had a genuine passion for what they were doing on that platform, and anything after that is a happy accident. And of course, for most people, the process of building a platform, just like traditional publishing, is a long, slow, tiring struggle. So my honest advice would be, if you've written something and you think it's good, try for traditional publishing first. Like, the rewards are going to be bigger, everything's going to be better about it. And if you've got the time to do it, do it. If you haven't got a platform yet, then presumably you're not up against the time crunch of put this out now or the interest will pass, in which case you can waste 6 months to a year shipping out manuscripts and synopses to agents and publishers and trying to get properly set up. But if you want to give that a backup plan, then by all means try building a platform at the same time. Just bear in mind, your skills as a writer may not translate to social media platforms, particularly as technology advances and everything gets shorter and choppier. To build a platform now, for instance, you ideally want to be TikTokable. And by that, I mean you need to be good at telling anecdotes, stories, or poems in a very, very brief window, speaking quickly with that particular sparky, snappy sense of humour and personability that not everyone has. Bonus points if you're good looking. For myself, I am not TikTokable. I love that platform, but I almost never post there because I'm just too waffly and long form for TikTok. I've tried, I can't do it. You may, as a writer, find the same. YouTube's longer form might be a better fit for you. If you don't want to show your face, or you don't think you've got the right sort of persona for TikTok or YouTube, or you just don't want to fucking sell your anonymity out completely, and all the shit that comes with it, you could try the written squares on Instagram thing, be that poetry, flash fiction, advice, or some other skill you can utilize. The kind of text boxes that you can scroll past on Instagram, and it can be advice or stories or whatever. I would say that would be quite a good anonymous way of building a platform, and it's going to translate quite well to selling people your writing because they're reading your writing to an extent. And while this is maybe not ideal, it is fully possible to build a platform initially based on something else, like your artwork or knitting skills. So something that you've got a genuine interest in, because I feel like this is going to draw people to you far faster, is having an organic, genuine, here's something I want to share, genuine enthusiasm for something, rather than this premeditated, I need people to buy my shit, I need to just draw in people, what's going to be trendy, what's going to be this, that, and the other. I know some people that does work for, for. There are the people who go, right, how quickly can I get to 1 million subscribers on TikTok? What's trending? What can I do? And it works for them. But I would say that, you look at the majority of people with platforms, most of them, it came about through their genuine enthusiasm, through their genuine passion for something. And obviously, although it's not ideal to have to take a huge sideways jump from, a knitting page to, hey, I've got a book out, some of that subscriber base are likely to be loyal and or curious enough to see what else you've got under your hat. So try that. So swinging from platform building to the literal publishing bit, if you stick self-publishing into Google, you will be hit with a swathe of pay us a fortune and we'll put your book out companies. And I can't personally speak to how good or bad those services are. Ultimately, it's personal circumstance as to whether you pay for a package that will include some form of promotion, or whether you publish on something free, then promote yourself, which I did the latter. Because I will say the self-publishing packages that charge you money charge you a lot of money. And I don't think I've ever heard much of a major success story that came from them. For me, so far, I've used Amazon. What you're looking for on Google is KDP, Kindle Digital Publishing, who can put your book out as an ebook, as a book, or both for free. Sorting out the formatting and the front cover can be nightmarish, admittedly. For the formatting, there are now online converters that will take your Word file or PDF and convert it into the format KDP uses, so you can check the formatting doesn't look wrecked before you put it out there. And with the front cover, if you can find an artist, so much the better. Covers matter a lot, way more than I initially realized when it comes to swaying people to even curiosity click your synopsis, let alone buy the thing. So I'd recommend not doing what I did with my first book, which was to just doodle something up in 5 minutes with my own total lack of visual artistry and go, good enough. They came for the words, not this scribble, didn't they? I mean, it's not exactly untrue, but still a beautiful cover is a decision you will never regret. And using AI, as I said before, probably not wise. Find yourself an artsy human. As far as distribution of KDP books, this too, thank God, is covered by Amazon. You don't have to pack up and mail out the books yourself, for which my disorganized ADHD ass is so thankful. It's a huge roadblock removed. One quick thing to beware with Kindle publishing, though, is that any royalties you make are going to take 2 to 3 months to hit your bank account. You're always working on a giant lag, so if the thing starts selling, don't blow your budget assuming you're about to get immediately paid at the end of the month, because you're fucking not. The payments come very backdated, and they come as a weird scattershot from all the different countries Amazon sells in, just to really drive your accountant crackers and confuse your bank account. Once the book is out there, existing in the world, getting continued sales becomes a whole marketing jobby. And how you go about that is all dependent on you, your platform, your personality, how pushy you're willing to be. And again, maybe finding an online course on marketing strategies for self-published writers would be a good thing for you, and probably for me too, now I'm thinking about it. I'm not great at ramming my books down people's throats, honestly, so I just try to mention that they're there, existing, ready to be bought whenever there's a relevant tie to a YouTube video or an Instagram post, and I tend to see an upward fluctuation whenever I do this, so do keep chipping away at it. Keep mentioning the books. Don't just announce them, then move on with your life, assuming everyone knows, because the amount of people who asked me if my book was ever coming out months after I'd announced its arrival shows how much I fucked up and how easy it is for everyone to miss that one measly announcement video. And that was a huge lesson for me that, yes, much as self-promotion makes me uncomfortable as fuck, it does need doing. This is the shit thing about being self-published, is that you are going to have to keep spanking your own monkey, so to speak. You are going to have to keep saying, look how great I am, here's my stuff, blah, 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 which is deeply uncomfortable to me. But you have to do it. No one's going to fucking buy it. And the thing that I try and remind myself is that you're not even forcing tedious stuff in people's faces. Some of them want it, you have it, and the only thing that stands in the way is that they don't know it exists because you were too shy to tell them. So with all of that said, I guess this is the bit where I tell you my 3 books are out on Amazon. The most recent is a furious rage romp through heroin addiction, neurodiversity, the chaos of social media infamy, and the dreadful inadequacies in mental health and addiction treatment. It's basically fiction, but it was driven by a lot of real life happenings and heartache, to the extent that it's called Exit Note, because I wrote it with the full intention of it becoming my public goodbye after I self-exited a life that had, due to all the above factors, become completely unlivable. Nothing goes to plan though, does it? I'm still alive, and I came to love that book too damn much to scrap it. It said too much, and it felt fucking important that those words, that fucking point of view, that scream of desperation was heard. So I did the most terrifying thing imaginable and published my unaliving note while still alive to hear its critique. Yay! That's Exit Note, if you fancy reading it. The next one back is Millennium Gothic, the one I read many rough draft chapters of to you while I was writing it, under the working title The Nostalgia Project. It's the story of my formative years on the Y2K Birmingham goth scene, clattering through the chaos of my eating disorder and life on the early pro-a.na forums, the glorious mess that was my first loves, and the huge stupid secrets I kept and kept and kept for so long those relationships got broken and those people drifted away into the silence of the night, and all I could do was smash on into the artificial chemical bliss of my rave era, until the whole scene was consumed by quite literal flames. That's Millennium Gothic. And then, of course, there's the weird older sibling of the bunch, my short story collection, which is a messy hodgepodge of gore and gross-out sexual moments, a few vampires, the odd ghost, and a whole lot of weirdness. That one's the Putrescent Vein, strong stomach required, and yes, it still has the crummy cover that I drew in paint myself. One day it will get a cool cover, my artist friend has volunteered, but at the moment I kind of dig how crummy and homemade it looks, because it was my first book, and the fact that it looks so home cooked, I kind of dig that, but it will be cooler when it finally gets a cool cover. So yeah, that's the 3, and they're all out on Amazon, author Dorian Bridges. Full details in the drop down box below, should you be awesome enough to venture out and have a read. And if you've got any more writing related questions or thoughts, drop them below or as a comment on my Instagram. And if you've got helpful advice or writing exercises that have worked magic for you, please lay that out for us all too. Upvote any helpful comments you see so they get more reach, because ultimately there are so many different ways to write, techniques to help you, and we're all different. So the more voices pitching in, the more writers who might find their aha moment and get things flowing. So with all of that said, I wish you well with your scribbling dreams, and I will hope to see you soon, be that here or between the pages of a book. Until then, take care, and toodly bit for now. Over and out. Bye-bye. Good luck with your writing.